welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is to give you a shortcut to understanding one of the most complex security stories emerging this quarter.
We're looking at developments spanning East Africa and the United States.
And focusing on a single, really shocking pattern: the link between vast domestic fraud and aggressive international counterterrorism. But first, a brief word from our sponsor, ProWave AI.
And a note that this deep dive is generated by Stylo News, the AI-powered news application.
We're aiming for a calm, professional, and factual report based on the latest intelligence.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our sources, curated by Stylo News, take us right to Minnesota. Federal authorities
They are investigating huge welfare fraud schemes. We're talking Medicaid, social services.
And the numbers are just staggering. Estimated losses are now exceeding $1 billion. This isn't just local theft.
No, this is organized crime on a massive scale.
And what's fascinating here is why the federal government is treating this as a top-tier national security issue. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has launched a full federal investigation. The core allegation is that these funds were routed overseas through the Hawala system. You see, that's an informal, trust-based money transfer network.
One that operates completely outside of regulated international banking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that unregulated movement of cash suggests direct financial support for terrorist organizations. The focus is on groups like Al-Shabaab in Somalia.
And the U.S. Attorney's Office has already charged
dozens of defendants.
Which really underscores that this is a highly coordinated operation. They're exploiting social service vulnerabilities here to finance conflict abroad.
So the
political temperature on this just shot up immediately.
It did. President Trump responded by announcing plans to terminate temporary protected status, or TPS, for Somali immigrants.
And for context, TPS grants temporary legal residency to people who can't safely return home.
Right. And that decision directly links the fraud to security concerns. It's also a criticism of Minnesota's leadership, people like Governor Walz, for failing to oversee these programs.
But there was strong opposition.
Very strong. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar condemned the move, arguing it's purely political. She emphasized the humanitarian impact and condemned using rhetoric that targets the entire Somali community.
Collective blame for the acts of a few.
Precisely.
So, while that debate rages here, the international response has been ramping up.
Simultaneously, U.S. Africa Command AFRICOM has significantly intensified its activity in Somalia.
How so?
Over 100 airstrikes in 2025 alone.
They're primarily targeting Al-Shabaab and ISIS affiliates in regions like Puntland. It's a very narrowly scoped counterterrorism focus.
And is it working?
Well, the intensified pressure is showing
Results on the ground. Somali National Army and Danab forces have had significant successes in Lower Shabelle. They even captured the son of a senior Al-Shabaab leader.
A major intelligence
A
win.
huge win. And the long-term goal here is ambitious. Somalia is working towards full self-reliance by 2029, planning to expand its armed forces to 100,000 troops.
And they're getting help from partners like Saudi Arabia and Turkey.
Yes, focusing heavily on joint intelligence sharing.
Of course, all of this happens against a tense political backdrop. President Trump also used some very derogatory language about Somalis.
He did, which fueled social tensions and drew immediate condemnation.
And yet, in a sharp diplomatic contrast, the administration also hosted the signing of the Washington Accords.
A historic peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. It just shows Washington is engaging on multiple,
sometimes contradictory fronts across the continent.
So, looking ahead, what should we be watching for?
You should watch for continued U.S. Treasury and Justice Department investigations
into these Minnesota fraud cases throughout 2026. This will likely push for reforms to tighten welfare oversight.
But in Somalia,
Continued military operations. They're moving toward that critical 2029 deadline for the full transition of security responsibility to the Somali forces.
so what's the final takeaway for you, the listener?
I think it's this. The simultaneous existence of massive international military aid, a huge domestic fraud investigation linked to terror finance, and high-level peace brokering. It just underscores how deeply interconnected global security and finance really are.
A complex picture.
Very. And it reminds us that even as these conflicts flare, deep structural realities persist, like the geological findings confirming the East African Rift is, in fact, expanding.
This precise intelligence data
Report was generated for you by Stylo News. Stylo is a mobile and computer app designed to deliver personal, custom-tailored intelligence briefs from hundreds of traditional news sources and X.
You can get that AI-powered
News on demand by subscribing to Stylo News at www.stylonews.com.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Feel free to request your own topics for future deep dives, and be sure to follow Stylo News on your favorite social media platform.